Hey, welcome to another episode of Joe Gates is Overthinking Out Loud. We're going to take kind of a different turn today from past episodes. A couple weeks ago, I got a call from a good buddy of mine that I used to work with, and he informed me that he was in a head-on collision with an 18-wheeler semi while he was under the influence of alcohol. And he told me that he wanted to get sober and stay sober and change his life. He's lucky to be alive. He's lucky to be sitting here right now. If you were to see the aftermath of his vehicle and what he walked away from, without a doubt, he was saved by God to be here with us today. He's got 46 staples in his hip, along with some other injuries. And this is Joe Gates' Overthinking Out Loud.
I can hear it all the time. I can see it in my mind. When you never swear I know you. When you never swear I know you.
Chris, thank you for coming on the show this morning. This is a little different this morning from previous guests. Usually, I've had music artists on, pastors, business owners, things of that nature. When you called me a couple weeks ago from Vanderbilt Hospital, I definitely wasn't expecting that call, right? I'm glad that you made it. As many people know, I've been in recovery for 23 years from alcohol and drugs. I've been sober for 23 years, and staying in recovery and working on self and helping other people is a big part of my life. So a lot of people know that. I don't hide it from the world, which is kind of why you knew. Let me give Joe a call. You called me because, you wanted to make a change in your life, and you feel like God gave you a second lease on your life. And that is absolutely what happened after you showed me the footage of the wreck. And I'm going to let you kind of talk a little bit about that. And life and all of those good things, and we'll get into that. I do want to just start out, man, very simply, telling us about yourself, where you grew up, how you grew up, and what led into you becoming addicted to alcohol and drugs. And then we'll just kind of go from there and get into the current, situation that you found yourself in. And I do want to say he is like fresh off this situation. He's got 46 staples in his leg or in his hip, and had to get a bunch of stuff done. He walked in here on crutches this morning. And so I just figured it would be a good time to talk, and why not talk about it with the world watching, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Did you grow up here in Tennessee, or?
I did. I grew up in Smyrna, Murfreesboro area for my middle life. Had a pretty good childhood, It was pretty great, Got everything I wanted, and, had good friends and everything like that. But it was when I turned 18 and, got in the bar scene, and, I was like, oh, this is fun, So, and then it attracted me to be a center of attention. That's what that bar gave me. That's what the alcohol gave me. And I ran with it, and I've ran with it for years. It's messed up a lot of things in my life, relationships. I'm a very selfish person. Alcohol makes me more selfish.
Yeah.
And it took this wreck to realize that. And, and that's me working on that every day, trying to figure out how to make myself better, because I don't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah.
This changed me.
What, growing up, you said you kind of got everything you wanted. Were you the baby of the family?
No, my parents just, if we wanted something, my dad and my mom found a way to get it.
Yeah.
4-wheelers, dirt bikes, we played paintball every weekend. You know, it was great. You know, it's just, I think once I got old enough to, you know, venture out and, you know, start partying, I ran with it. I ran with it hard. You know, it's messed up, you know, relationships because I put alcohol and my friends and that attention in that rather than my relationships. I mean, alcohol has been a big problem within my life. And, you know, within the past 2 years, I've really realized that. But I just couldn't seem to grasp sobriety.
When you started drinking or experimenting with drugs, I guess at 18, right? Was it immediately a problem, or was it something gradual that grew from there?
I believe it was an immediate problem. It wasn't as severe as it has been the past 2 years. But I would black out. I'd black out. You know, I'd go to the bar Thursday through Sunday, or you know, Thursday through Saturday, and two out of the 3 times I'd black out. You know, I don't tell people these things. You know, I thought it wasn't, you know, important.
It was normal, right? In our minds as alcoholics, like everybody gets drunk and blacks out or
Absolutely.
passes out. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I remember when I was younger, I would literally just put, you know, alcohol and multiple drugs in my body all at the same time, and I thought that was just what life was all about, experimenting. And I was one of those guys, if they put it in front of me, sure, I'll try it. I also got sober at a young age. I mean, you're young. You're 32 years old.
Yes, sir.
And you literally have a second lease on life right now, right?
Absolutely.
And, you know, everything that happens to us happens for a reason, right? And sometimes, you know, as men or I'm the kind of person that, like, God really needs to get my attention, right? And it's usually when God is ready for me to make a change in my life, he has to come at me in full force, like break me all the way down so that he can build me all the way up. And that still even happens in sobriety, through situations in life. And that's just kind of the way God has operated in my life. And I think that is definitely what has happened to you in like a major, major way. You showed me, and it makes me emotional, man. You showed me the videos and the pictures of your wreck. And I don't know how it was a miracle that you walked away from that. It was a miracle that the semi that you hit and the occupants of that semi walked away from that. And you had told me they had walked away unscathed. Like, you know, the semi blew up, right? I mean, essentially.
I hit the fuel tank and it caught fire.
Yeah.
They got out of the cab. The driver, his wife, and the dog unscathed. They got out of the cab before it caught fire and didn't have to go in the ambulance or anything.
Wow. Another miracle, right?
Absolutely.
So take us through the couple days leading up to that moment, and then take us through that moment up until,
Gotcha.
you know, where you're at now.
So I was a month and a half sober. I was doing well. I was in the gym, you know, with a good old friend of mine. He, you know, we were doing great. I'd, you know, hung out with a buddy, you know, that Saturday. And I was like, you know what? I said, oh, that's blueberry margarita. I said, I'm going to just taste it. Well, that taste turned into, you know, a couple glasses. But I was okay, you know, I was good. Well, following day, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go by the bar. I'm going to play this slot machine. I'm going to have an NA beer, you know, like I normally
Non-alcoholic beer.
Yes, sir.
Is that what that is?
Yep.
Yeah, I can't drink those, man, because they taste like beer.
I can't. Right. I can't.
Like, I never drank for the taste, man. I always drank for the effect.
Right. And I can't. I realize I can't either. But I went in there to play slot machine. I was going to put my $20, $30 in, go get me, you know, a vape. That was my plan. That's what I told my mom I was going to do. Well, I never showed back. I never showed back up. I had friends, walk into the bar, a bunch of them that I used to drink, with every Sunday. And something in my mind went, okay, I'm going to drink with them. And I drank all day. Drank all day, into the night, into the late night. Had very little sleep. And woke up the next morning hungover. I knew one of the bars in town was open for breakfast. I was like, oh, I'm going to go get something to eat.
Alcohol for breakfast.
Alcohol for breakfast.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm going to go get something to eat. I'm going to drink three or four beers, and I'm going to go home and go to sleep. I've got to kick this. I got to get back on track. I had those, 4 beers and don't remember anything. I time-lapsed between 9 to 1, which to me, I thought was abnormal because very rarely, have I ever time-lapsed or blacked out.
Yeah.
Just 3 or 4 beers.
9 a.m. to 1 p.m., you have absolutely no recollection of what took place in those hours.
No recollection. I've tried to ponder what happened or what could have happened. But the thing is that I take full responsibility. I know my actions, my alcoholism caused that. The only thing I remember between 9 to 1 is hearing a semi-horn, seeing a white light, and then the EMS asking if I could pull myself out. I reached for the handle up top, and I reached for the seat, and I went to pull, and I said, I can't feel my hip.
So, which you could not pull yourself out.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I physically couldn't move my hip. It, it dislocated and shattered the backside of my hip socket.
Wow. At that moment, where that happened, did you realize in that moment what had happened? Did you realize you had crossed over the center lane, and like what was going through your mind in that time when the EMS had showed up asking you if you could get yourself out of the car?
Like I said, I had no recollection, and it just honestly scared me. And I was like, what happened? What happened? She said, honey, you've been in a wreck. She said, you hit this semi head on, and you hit their fuel tank. And she said, but we're going to get you out of here. We're going to get you taken care of.
Wow. And so at that point, now you're getting put into an ambulance, or they've got you on the ground and they're working on you there, or what took place from that point?
From what I remember is once I said I couldn't pull myself out, they jaws the life the door off.
Wow.
They took a hydraulic jack and pushed the dash away from me. And then that's when they pulled me out of the passenger side, put me on the stretcher, neck brace, everything.
Were you feeling pain in your hip?
I was in shock.
Yeah.
Like when I tried to pull myself up, I obviously could feel it, but I was in shock. That's when your adrenaline's running. I couldn't properly feel anything. I didn't really feel anything till, the hospital, before they gave me, medication to, not feel it.
Right. And so you get in the ambulance, they drive you from here to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I was in
Nashville.
I was in Milton, which is out headed towards Smithville.
Yeah.
To Nashville. It was long ride, but all I remember of that was I kept calling my mother over and over again. And I said, Mom, I've been in a wreck. And finally the EMT grabbed my phone, and she was like, "Is this your mother?" Letting them know what happened, and I realized how badly this affected others, not just me.
Right. We don't think about that a lot. We just think about ourselves, right? So you get to the hospital. They get you doped up for the pain, and I think you had mentioned before you were kind of out of it for a couple days, and then at what point and how did all this start to sink in while you were in the hospital?
I think it was around day 3. Once they had reset my hip and did the surgery to put the plate in the backside of my hip socket. Finally just laying there and analyzing every possibility of what could have happened. I didn't know.
You were still in the dark about what took place.
I didn't know the details. I'm being told the details from my family. I remember I remember some of the first day. I had every bit of my cousins, my aunts, my mother. My father and stepmother drove 8 hours from the beach to make sure that they were there.
Your family showed up for you.
Absolutely.
Which a lot of the times, folks that kind of live the life that you and I lived, families are done with them, or they just never really had anyone to call family at all. So you are blessed in that regard, that they were all there for you. So now you're just kind of laying in the hospital and you're recollecting everything that kind of happened. You're in your head, you're going through everything. They're fixing you up, surgery, this, that, the other. What is your mindset? How are you feeling about yourself? How are you feeling in that moment? Once you kind of just start to realize everything that happened and your family's telling you, hey man, you hit a semi head on, and
I think I was scared at first, and it was more so I'm in trouble. But once I got to sit and think, and honestly, in my alcoholism, if I would go on a bender, I'd be depressed. Once I got done on that bender, I'd go in a deep depression.
Yeah, alcohol's a depressant.
Right.
It's what it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, that third day, in my mind, I went, God did this for a reason. I need to slow down. I didn't want to slow down. He made me.
He made you slow down. And you say that you bring up God, allowed it to happen for a reason, which, I wholeheartedly believe in that, in situations like that. Which brings me to this question: where were you with God, prior to this? What was your relationship with God? Now, for me, I'll say, bro, even through the drinking and the drugs and the life that I was living and the crime and selling dope and all the things that I did, I still oddly always had like a strong belief in God. And I never thought anything was like God's fault. There might've been one time I screamed out to God, like, why are you letting this happen to me? But other than that, like, I always had a pretty strong foundation in God, thanks to, my mom and dad. And are you okay? Are you comfortable?
Oh yeah.
Okay. If you start to like feel pain and whatnot, let us know. And so where were you in your relationship with God prior to this wreck?
I had questioned a lot of things, but I'd gotten to the point where I'd started praying. It might have not been every day, but I'd find myself praying more and more, and I'd fall off, not pray for a couple of days. I wanted something greater, and I guess the alcohol and everything just took over my mind and made me slip from that, but. This wreck, I wholeheartedly believe that he did save me.
Yeah.
And so it brought me closer to him. And
yeah,
do
you consider yourself like a Christian, a believer in Jesus Christ?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're going through all this. You're in the hospital. At what point in your mind do you go, maybe I should give Joe Gates a call?
I think it was that third day.
The third day. Wow.
Right after the surgeries, and I just sat there, and I said, I've had a rough 2 years. I said, I remember Joe talking, about his past.
Yeah.
And I said, I've listened to him talk. I said, I think Joe would be helpful, and I think Joe would want to hear this story.
Yeah.
I said, because it's life altering, and it shows faith. It shows, the Lord, because I wholeheartedly believe I wouldn't be here if he wasn't sitting next to me in that car.
Yeah, exactly. And, to give a little detail on us, we worked together for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, something like that, at a steel shop in Laverne.
which was like the hardest job I've ever had in my life because I'm not like a mechanically inclined worker guy. I'm more of like sit at an office chair and just talk a lot worker. And we even hung out a few times, during that time. And I always thought very highly of you. Always thought you were a pretty cool dude, man. I know you got kids and all that, which thank God you're still here because they still have their father. And I mean, we hadn't talked in years when you called me, man. I mean, it had been.
I seen you one time, and that's when you did come to Wolf.
Just to visit.
Yep.
Yeah, just to say hi. But other than that, yeah, we hadn't talked in years. And I'm thankful to God that he had put it in your head to give me a shout, right? I'm sure that you did not think when you were reaching out to me that you would then be on a podcast 2 weeks later,
right?
Telling your story. But it's such a crazy story. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to have you come on here. And for you to be open about what happened and put yourself in a vulnerable position like this, I appreciate it. So since getting out of the hospital, you have started the process of having a life of recovery from alcohol and drugs. You're very fresh. You're very new in it. And, I'm going to kind of be helping you with that journey, and I'm honored to do that. I think, for us and for people like us, obviously the number one most important thing is our relationship with God, and I can tell you from experience, you do have to take life one day at a time, one moment at a time sometimes, because eventually you're going to get those staples out of your hip. Absolutely. Eventually you're not going to feel the pain. Eventually you're going to feel a lot better. And my fear for you or for anybody in recovery, like I always did really good in recovery when I was on probation, right? Mm-hmm. Like I always did what I was supposed to do. I always went where I was supposed to go. Like, and it was easy for me to not drink or do drugs when, I had to get a urinalysis every week. But when the pressure's off is when it can get hard, it can get tough. And that time is going to come for you. The pressure will go away. I think for you, in your case, you were in a pretty life-altering situation. And you may be able to ride on that for a while, but I think the most important thing for you now moving forward, once you do recover physically, is to not stop. Keep going, man, and keep doing the things that you have to do one day at a time. I'm on a journey now where it's like, I just want to be as close to God as I possibly can. I still can be that selfish, self-centered, egotistical guy a lot. I don't know if it'll ever go away. I love myself way too much. But I still continue to do the things that I have to do to try to grow in my relationship. I don't want to be selfish and self-centered, bro. I don't want to just constantly think about myself all the time. Like, I have kids, I have a wife, I have these people that need me. And it's all about how close am I getting to God when like times are rough, right? Obviously this is a great time for you to really plug in and get at it, whether it's reading the Bible every day or whatever that looks like for you. You had spoke earlier on the effects of the family, right? And our lives and the way that we live and how that affects our family members or the mothers of our children or our children, our parents. In your eyes and from your observation, how has your previous lifestyle, and I'll call it previous because here you are not drinking, affected your family members?
I think it's the constant, the constant worry. Is Chris going to be okay? Me not, just disappearing for a day or two. I've been staying with my mother. How many times have I done it to where I'd be like, hey, I'm going somewhere. Then, not come back for 2 or 3 days. I know they worry.
Yeah.
Through my alcoholism, I lied to my dad for months. He's like, you're still sober? I said, yeah. I did because I was afraid of the judgment. But in the end, I probably needed it because it probably would have helped. It would have probably saved me from what happened. And I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as, I need to hide this. I need to hide my problems. I'm going to run away. If I'm going to go drink, I'm going to not tell you. Rather than reaching out.
The shame.
Yeah. It's shameful. It hurts my heart to know that I've done that for, years and years and years. I want to change. I want them to not worry about me. I want them to see a better version of me. And that takes time. That's one day at a time.
Absolutely.
So for me, I want to grow and excel. Yes, it's going to be a rough couple of years. 2 or 3 years. It's going to be rough. I got a hole to dig out of. But I'm going to get there.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
My daughter is 8 and my son is 6.
Awesome. And have you been able to see them since the wreck?
I had them last weekend, and they roasted me all weekend.
They roasted you all weekend.
Yep. I told my son, I was like, you can't play Roblox. He said, too bad you can't catch me. And there was multiple things. I had to turn myself in for the warrant.
Yeah.
That's DUI. Understandable. I'm taking everything head on. I'm gonna take care of it. Rather than go, oh, poor me. No, let's take this and let's get this behind us.
Right.
My daughter's like, well, how'd you get to jail? You can't drive. And then another one was, I got his haircut and I got my haircut. He's in the back seat and looked at my daughter and went, hey, Skylar, we can play this game. It's called Car Crash. You can be the semi. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. I see it's dark humor, but I think that's how they coped with it and how they understand it.
That's where I was going to go with it.
They know their daddy's still here.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to still be here. But it shows my kids understand in their own little ways.
Yeah.
And that in itself makes me want to do so much better because I wasn't doing things for them. I was selfish. I worried about me. Even though I have children, I worried about me, what Chris wanted. And that I can't do that. I got babies and they need my attention. They need everything out of me rather than me give myself everything.
They need their dad.
Absolutely.
We all needed our dads. My kids need their father. I'm blessed enough that my kids have never seen me drink or my wife, because I got married kind of late and everything. Moving forward, I want to know, psychologically, how you're doing, how you feel in your mind. Is depression setting in? Are you waving in and out of depression and sorrow and grief and all that? Or are you feeling more like, man, let's get it. Let's go.
I think it's more of, it's an eye opener. I haven't had depression, and I've talked to multiple people. I said, I have dipped out of depression when I did drink. I said, this wreck changed me. I said, I haven't been depressed since. I said, it's almost like it snapped me into a different understanding. Rather than, oh, poor me. It's okay. What actions can I take to better myself, to advocate against drunk driving? Because I can't tell you how many times I've done it and got away with it.
I loved it. I don't know why.
Right.
When I drank, I had to drive.
It's like, yep, I'm going somewhere.
Yes, I am there. I'm turning the music on and I'm going to drink and I'm going to drive. I remember being 16, driving my dad's Grand Marquis with a case of beer in the trunk and beer between my legs while I'm driving, 16, through my town.
Yep. Just
getting stupid. Dude, I got 2 DUIs in 1 week, one time, which, it takes a lot of talent to to accomplish.
Right.
But it was just, I had to be on the go, and it was just this overwhelming desire, like, notice me, look at me, look how cool I am. I'm so cool. And I don't know where that comes from. Maybe I do know where it comes from. I don't know. The home I grew up in, I had wonderful parents. I had a wonderful sibling. And my sibling was just kind of very successful at all of the things that she did. And maybe I felt like nobody was noticing me. But I also feel like that was alcoholism before I even started drinking. Like that overwhelming desire and need to be noticed, like, was already inside of me so deeply. Because when I look back at it as an adult, I'm just like, what was wrong with you, man? Like, even as like a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old, man, like, I just wanted all the attention. And even in my adult life now, I mean, even sober, brother, like, I'm still like seeking validation from people. And I don't know why that is. Like, at this point, like, I should be through that, and my wife notices it, and she's like, why are you trying so hard to be this group of people's friends when they're making no effort, to be your friend? And I have to sit back and I have to think, like, why is it bothering me so bad when certain people don't accept me the way that I want them to accept me? And I don't know if you can relate to that. Can you? You're shaking your head. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's all like talking with my mother and my father, there's like, you sought validation from people that didn't give one care for you.
So why is that, bro? Why do you think that is?
I think it's because I like the attention, whether it's good or bad attention. I want to be the center of attention. Why
do you have to be the center of attention?
I'm not sure. I think it's because a little bit of selfishness and it's the validation of being wanted. Even in relationships, I didn't realize in the aspect of like relationship, I've always sought someone, I've always wanted to have someone by my side. I've never been okay with just being alone.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Like, we've all been through that in one way or the other,
right. And, sitting and like, I've thought on it and, even sitting, since I've gotten out of the hospital and the rehab, I would want to go back and sit in the rehab. Why? Because I was alone. I became more comfortable with being alone, and it allowed me to analyze situations and understand things better. Because, my ADHD brain is all over the place.
Yeah. And when we're alone, we're not really alone. We're with God.
Right.
And I think even nowadays, just, we'll be locked into our phones and, mm-hmm. If I'm alone in the living room and I'm just scrolling at my phone, like, we need, as humans, as children of God, as the sons and daughters of Christ, like, we need peace. We need to have that alone time. We need to have that quiet time with the Lord. And I can definitely relate to the uncomfortableness of being alone, sometimes. And that, like, I'm such a critical thinker. Like, I will dig and dig. Like, why do I have this desire? Like, why do I have to have people around me? Why do I have to be accepted by these people or these people? Like, not everybody's going to like me, man. You've worked with me, like, people either love me or they hate me, bro.
Right.
There's no in between. They either like love me to death or they cannot stand me whatsoever. And I want to be okay with that.
Me too.
Even when, like, in a work environment, when like, this person doesn't like me, it drives me crazy.
Same.
But, like, why do I need that person to like me? I don't. So I go back to my childhood and growing up. I'm like, what was it? I mean, you yourself said your parents gave you everything you ever wanted, right?
Right.
They didn't abandon you. They didn't not pay attention to you. Where is that desire to have to be accepted and wanted and have the attention placed on you? Where is it coming from? It's coming from somewhere. I mean, were you born that way?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either, brother.
I think that's a deep dive that I'm going to have to figure out down the road. I think it's going to take self-searching to really
Big time.
find it, because I couldn't tell you.
I'm still
why I want that
searching.
desire.
Yeah, I'm still searching, man. I'm still searching for myself. Well, here we are, man. It's like, this is so different, for me, and I know for you. So at this point right now, sitting here with me, how long has it been since you've put a substance in your body, aside from the pain medication they prescribed you at the hospital,
Right.
because your whole hip was falling off?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Been sober for 3 weeks and a day.
And between the last time you were sober for a month and a half and right now this 3 weeks, how long did that drinking run last until you got to this 3 weeks? Did I ask that in a simple way to understand?
How long?
So you said you had been sober a month and a half. You
Yes.
relapsed, drank, wreck. Now you've been sober 3 weeks. How
Correct.
long did that drinking period last?
3 days.
Golly, brother. I mean, man, if God didn't make it any more clear that you have absolutely no business pouring alcohol into your body,
Right.
it couldn't be, and looking at you and talking to you, man, by nature, you're a pretty happy guy, right?
Absolutely.
Most people that drink and drug like you and I did, when they don't have it in their body, they're absolutely miserable. And you don't come off like that at all. I can see in your eyes, man, that that you have a second lease on your life right now. But there is definitely a lot of work to be done, and some soul searching and some digging to be done, in life. And I feel like for us, especially, for myself, like that never stops. It never stops. The digging never stops. The, trying to make myself a better person never stops, and there'll come a point in your life, man, where just everything feels great, everything's great, everything's perfect. Right. I'm sober, I don't have any pain, everything's great. And a lot of people at that moment, man, will go, I could have a drink,
Yep.
kind of like what you did 3 weeks ago. I could have a drink.
I felt great.
Yeah, I felt great. I could have a drink. And I think now the big deal is making sure you don't feel that way again, right? That it's kind of cemented in you, that life is over. I told somebody we both know who's sober a while ago, when, whatever it was, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when he called me and said, I need to stop drinking. This is what happened. It was a big life event. And I just remember telling him, man, the party's over, brother. It's over. We've done it all, man. We've done it all.
It's time to grow up.
So, I hope and I pray, man, that you can continue along this path. And I hope and I pray that, I help you in a way that is beneficial to you. What do you want out of life, Chris?
I want, everything that I've thought I wanted, I just didn't put my mind to. I want to have a good life. I want to set a good life for my children, for myself. Find a good relationship, but I have to work on myself first.
Yeah.
Get a house. I want to thrive. I want to succeed. But my alcoholism and my own mind has blocked me from doing that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow myself to slow down. I wouldn't allow myself to get focused to accomplish these things. And now that I have this second chance, I have to.
And you're in no rush. I just bought my first house at 48. So you're 32.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's
Still
no
time.
rush, man, to get those things. It sounds like, just like some of the things you say, like you've always had an issue with being alone.
Absolutely.
Like, are you one of those guys that are like girlfriend to girlfriend, or somebody that always kept 3 or 4 women on the side, which is kind of what I was back in the day. But have you always been a relationship guy?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of both. It would be girlfriend to girlfriend, or There was times where there was two or three.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
You had your hoe time
Yes.
where you were the hoe.
Absolutely. It's just, and that's what it is. But I look at the aspect of it now. What do I get from that? Like my dad said, you're not going to find anything good in a bar. You're not going to find a good woman in the bar. There might be that one miracle case that somebody finds, but that's not the case for everyone.
No.
Like, I know a woman's not going to find a good man in a bar. If you're constantly in the bar, what are you doing? You're not impacting your life. And it took this wreck to realize, man, I've wasted a lot of time in that bar, a lot of money. I've wasted thousands and thousands of dollars, for what? What do I have to show for it? There's nothing to show for it.
46 steel staples.
Yes.
You have those.
I do have those.
Yes. And I relate to that. I get that a lot. And, I always tell people, man, focus on yourself and focus on your relationship with God, and everything it'll come to you, brother. It'll come to you. You don't have to go looking for it. The other thing is, as you continue upon this journey in your life, and as you grow in your relationship with Christ and staying sober and working on your selfish self, like I constantly am doing, as you continue to do this and as you continue to draw closer to God, what I have found is a lot of the times, man, that's when the devil comes, right? And it may be dressed up as this beautiful girl somewhere that's going to knock you off track and keep your focus on her. I don't have the alcohol anymore. Now I'm addicted to this, right? Codependency is what they call it. Addicted to women. I was addicted to women, for many years of my life, just being single and thinking I was God's gift to women, and I'm not at all. You can ask my wife, but, it's easy to fall into those traps as you're going along. And we have to be mindful as we're growing in our relationship for when those attacks do come and when those situations do come, and being able to notice them and see them and go, I see what's going on here. I'm not falling for it. God is my refuge. And to just kind of be mindful of those things as you're going along. I mean, sobriety for me is absolutely the best thing that's ever been given to me. I can't imagine my life with alcohol. Like, the thought of drinking is just like disgusting to me. And it has been like that for many years. When I went through the recovery that I went through, at the end of it, I had a spiritual experience, and the obsession to drink and use drugs was completely lifted from me. It was no longer there. The thought of it, any of that. And I would have dreams that I was drinking and things of that nature, and I would wake up like mad at myself, and then I'm like, okay, that was a dream. But the life that I have been given now, it's like sometimes I wish I could just, like, especially when new guys come around or seeking help, like, I wish that I could show them like the end result. And I always tell people that are new to this sobriety thing, I always say, like, stay sober long enough to feel what actual sobriety feels like.
Right.
Because once you taste that, you'll never want to go back to drinking, because this feels so much better than pouring poison into your body and trying to feel good right now. I got to feel good right now. And that's us, right? We're instant gratification junkies. I want to feel good right now, right this second.
Absolutely.
Right? And that doesn't necessarily go away with not drinking. You're going to find other ways to feel good right now. And hopefully they're not, destructive ways, because I lived a very reckless life in sobriety with dating and things of that nature. But right now you feel good, because you're okay, you're alive, and you're feeling the high of all that. But, I would say one day at a time, it's like man, when you start to get the year and the 2 years and the 3 years and the 4 years and the 5 years, it's just like, man, I will never go back to that lifestyle, man. And I think, I don't know, in a lot of cases, and it even kind of sounds like for you, man, this may have been hereditary, because it's not like your words, you didn't grow up in a horrible environment or, anything of that nature. It was just you. That's just how you got down from the moment you drank. And I believe alcoholism can be hereditary.
Oh, absolutely.
Was that something that was in your family line, family members and things of that nature?
A bit on both sides.
Both sides.
Both sides of the family, my mother and father's, I will say, my father can drink beer. He can drink, his 3 or 4 and quit.
Quitter.
There's just something, I guess my mind's not wired like that.
No, sir.
I want that gratification. And I know as soon as my lips hit that first one, I can tell myself I'm going to have 3. That 3 turns into 15.
The lie. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to set my limit at 3. I'm going to go in here, stay an hour and a half. I'll drink me 3 beers.
How many times did that happen?
A lot.
How many times did you stay an hour and a half and drink 3 beers?
Not once.
Not once.
I drank 15 beers.
Yeah. One time I went in a bar. It was after a relapse, and I was like, oh, they said I can't drink 2 drinks and stop. And I went in this bar, and I sat down, and I drank 2 drinks, and I stopped and left. But the other side of that was I think I'd probably ate 4 or 5 Vicodins before I went to the bar, smoked a couple joints, God only knows what else. But I did drink my 2 drinks, and I lived that lie was good enough for me. Like, I could do it. I can control it. Which the lies that we tell is it's absolute insanity, right? It's like they say all the time. I hate hearing this, but it's because it's so cliche. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the meaning of insanity. And man, that's what I did for so many years. And I turned into a different person when I drank, man. A person that I didn't like. A person, the more alcohol I poured into my body, the less I had a conscience for you or anything else that I did. I was that kind of the case for you as well? Like,
I still cared, for others, but it just, I would get so, drunk. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Can't drink liquor.
Yeah.
Liquor, makes me mad. I've had many cases throughout, my drinking.
Yeah, I get mad anyway, even 23 years sober.
Never good.
Yeah.
But I can sit there and drink beer all day long. I can be happy. But it's the point of I don't know when to stop, so then I black out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just scary. If you really deep dive, and I don't know how I made it to certain places. And, driving through the middle of Murfreesboro, countless amount of times drunk.
You
Thankful I didn't kill anyone.
Yeah. You definitely have a calling on your life from God. What that looks like, neither of us know right now. I believe that we are blessed to be alcoholics. The reason I say that is because had I not been an alcoholic, I would not have the appreciation for life that I have now. I would not have the relationship that I have with God. I would not be where I'm at in life. I would not look at life the way that I look at it. Through my alcoholism and through my recovery, I've been able to not blame everybody else for all my problems. Recovery taught me that I need to just look at myself and fix myself and make amends to people that need amends made to. When I drank, everything was everybody else's fault. It was the police's fault. It was everybody's fault. Stupid cop pulled me over because I was swerving. Like,
why do you do that?
Yeah, just not smart thinking. And I believe that God chooses. This is just my belief. He chooses who he allows to be an alcoholic because of the plans that he has for their life. Right? Had you not been an alcoholic and had you not been in that wreck, you would not be looking at life the way that you're looking at it now.
No, it's a completely different perspective.
Yeah. What is that perspective?
It's a wake-up call. It's God gave me a second chance. If you look at the aftermath of that wreck, I should have never made it out. You know, for the motor to fly 40 foot from the car, I should be dead right now.
The motor in your car flew 40 feet from your car.
Yes, it ejected through the hood, hit the windshield, and was 45 feet away from the car.
That's crazy, man.
You know, it just the outlook on life is. I said, you know, there's got to be God. God had to be sitting in that car with me, because there's no way I should have made it out. Statistically, I think it's like a 4. You know, getting hit by a semi, it's like 4% chance,
if that,
of survival.
Man,
and I did, and I'm here, and I wanted to make an impact. I want to advocate against drunk driving. You know, it's go and talk to teens. You know, I've got to get better with my sobriety first. You know, I have to get myself to where I want to be, but to advocate and show kids that, hey, this is real, because I can show pictures. I can show pictures of the car. Show the big old scar on my hind end. You know,
yeah.
It's real.
It's real.
You know, I've, you know, when they used to do DARE in school, you're like, oh, that ain't gonna happen to me. But you know, you don't get the pictures, you don't get the aftermath. You know, it's severely changed everything, and it makes me want to have a different perspective. I don't want to be selfish. I want to help others. You know, this this didn't just affect me; it affected everyone around me, because I have to be reliant on them. You know, that was my aunt's car. I'm driving on her insurance, so now that puts her in a financial bind. Alcoholism doesn't just affect me or us; it affects our family, everyone around it. You know, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't live with myself if that semi driver and his wife would have died.
That would have been rough.
It would have destroyed me. I would have been in prison for, you know, vehicular manslaughter. I couldn't live with myself. My kids wouldn't have their father. You know, I'd be in prison for life.
You're too pretty for prison. Yeah, I was too. But man, if you, what have you said to your kids?
I haven't really said much. No, Daddy was in a wreck. You know, he's okay. You know, I talk to them 3 times a day, you know, while I was in the hospital. You know, 3-4 times a day, a video call. I'd show them my staples, you know, show them my elbow. They're like, oh, ew, you know.
Yeah.
They did see me in the hospital, and they were a little weirded out. They were like, I asked my son to move my foot. I was like, hey, bud, can you move my foot over a little bit, you know, so I get more comfortable? He just yanked. Pain instantly, you know. So I think they're adjusting because their dad can't get around.
Yeah.
You know, the dad that used to be able to run. You know, I take him to the skate park all the time. Guess what I can't do no more? I can't run a skateboard. Because if I fall on that hip, oh, I'm done.
Right.
You know, so I didn't just change my life. I changed theirs. You know, I'll still take them to skate park, but they're not going to see their dad, so, you know, skating, riding a bike, because I'm going to be the smart person to go, okay, it's time to grow up. I don't want to mess this hip up again. I mean, the pain alone makes me not want to drink. I don't want anybody to live through this. And, you know, to think of it this way is, by the time I'm 50 or so, I'll probably have to have that hip replaced. So I'm going to go through the same thing down the road.
Yeah, this is like a long, life-lasting situation.
Absolutely.
But it takes what it takes to wake us up.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna ask you this question, man. We'll end it with this. what would you say to some teens out there right now that are partying and drinking? Maybe it's one of our kids one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are thinking that's the way to go in life, and are seeking that validation and that attention and partying with their friends. What would be your message to them?
I would tell them to put the effort into church or God, because, you know, I've now lived through this wreck in alcoholism and, you know, trying to get sober, that, you know, it never ends well. You know, there's, you know, certain people that can drink. I'm not one of them. I would, you know, advocate, you know, hey, if you do drink, call someone before you get behind the wheel. But, you know, I really want to advocate of not drunk driving at all. So, you know, call someone. I gladly pick up a teen if they, you know, they called and said, hey, I'm drunk. I'm out in the middle of this field. I don't want to drive. You know, even, you know, if it's my kids down the road, I'd rather them not drink, because it would have put their father through.
Do you want to know what I do to my kids? They're 11 and under, and the odds of one of them being an alcoholic is pretty high, right? Mm-hmm. Because addiction comes from both sides. So, just example, real quick, we're walking down the sidewalk. I forget what city we were in, and there was like a guy laying on the side of the sidewalk, like convulsing with like scabs on his face, like talking to himself. Mm-hmm. And I just said, do you guys see this guy right here? That's what happens if you drink alcohol. Yeah. Like this morning, taking my daughter to school, I was talking to her about you.
Yeah.
And I said, this is what happens if you drink alcohol. And I try my best to just put that fear in them, mm-hmm. that they don't have the opportunity to take a chance and see if they're an alcoholic or not. I don't want them to figure that out. I want to raise them to just not drink at all.
Right.
Because out of the four of them, it's probably a 90% chance that one of them is going to have alcoholism.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I try my very best to just instill fear in them when it comes to drugs and alcohol and things of that nature. My daughter's 11, and I tell her all the time, like, I was getting drunk at your age. I started drinking at 10, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like getting drunk at 11. I'm looking at my daughter. She's this little girl, and I'm just like, holy crap. Like, I was drinking then. Like, it's crazy. So, man, I have absolutely no doubt that your life, you have no idea how your life is about to take off. I believe with every piece of my soul that you're going to help a lot of people, and that God has a calling on your life to help people, and that God saved you in that wreck for a big, big reason. Once again, you just, life is going to go in a direction, man, you never imagined. Mm-hmm. And I believe that. I appreciate you for coming on and being vulnerable today, man, and talking to me. I know this was totally out of your comfort zone.
Right.
Right.
I need to be out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, don't we all? It was totally out of your comfort zone, and you came in here hobbled in here. Your crutches are back there. And you didn't have to do that, but I think your desire to help other people and to tell your story is strong. And, man, I look forward to riding along this journey with you, Chris.
Look forward to it, too.
I can hear it all the time. I can see it in my mind.
When you're nervous, when I know you are. When you're nervous, when I know you are.